Welcome to the Butternotes podcast with three guys who have no business listening to music, much less talking about it. Bros, I fucking love System of a Down so much.
Yeah, me too.
Holy shit, this stuff is so fucking good.
This is going to be us talking about 7th grade for a long time, and then repeating about how it's still good even though it's not 7th grade anymore. So that's going to be kind of the recurring motif for this evening.
Yeah.
You already got it down, so I don't think it needs to be said anymore.
Jacob, when did you get into System of a Down?
9th grade.
Late bloomer.
A little bit later.
Yeah,
You got
bloomer.
it late.
Yeah. Just a little bit, yeah.
I remember listening to Mezmerize on the... Remember Borders Books had, like, the latest CDs? They, like... You could, like, basically just listen to the whole CD on the headphone station. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And they had Mezmerize. I remember when it first came out, and I put that on, and I was pretty young, and it blew my mind. In a negative way initially, but I grew into it really fast. I was so young, dude, when I first heard that.
Yeah, I mean, we were, like, what, 11 or 12 when that album came out?
Yeah,
I was 13 and you were probably 12.
Yeah, then I would have been 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jacob and I were just
like,
talking. Go ahead.
I barely even listened to any music, much less any heavy music, before I heard System of a Down.
I said that to Haley yesterday. It was like, all I listened to before this was pretty much whatever the hell my parents or someone else's parents were listening to. And then System of a Down with a handful of others basically piqued my interest in modern music.
Yeah, me too. And it happened at the same time for us.
So I'm sure we'll talk about this more as the episode goes on, but Jacob and I were talking beforehand. How the fuck did this music become popular?
Zeitgeist?
Yeah.
I mean, like obviously, but I don't get it. Like especially anything from that first album, like Sugar or Sweet Pea, man, those are challenging fucking songs. I'm surprised that people like it.
But it's
that's
funny.
one of the most popular songs is Sugar, yeah.
What'd you say?
It's funny and it's kind of a meme. Like it's funny and it's kind of a meme.
Yeah,
like,
that's probably
it's not like it's not listening to like chamber music or something. I mean, it's difficult. Like it's not simple music, but it's also very weird and a meme.
Yeah,
just a bit. And it was the right place culturally when it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the history of it. I mean MTV was still playing rock music, grunge, post grunge, alt rock, that sort of stuff. So it wouldn't be that strange for stuff like that to be played on TV. And I mean System of a Down was featured multiple times on MTV, their music videos and singles and stuff like that. I mean this is also a time though where boy bands were really big. You had like the solo like female pop artists like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera and stuff like that. And then there was some precedent for rock, but I mean this stuff far outstrips all of that. It's much quirkier, zanier.
Yeah. And
I have to imagine that the sort of fuck the establishment, politically charged lyrics had something to do with it as well. But they were. I mean, yeah, it's just so out there. It's strange to think that in any era, music like this would become so mainstream. Much less they have an album that goes platinum 3 times.
Yeah,
it's wild to think about. Yeah,
they had Rick Rubin behind him too, which had to help.
Yeah.
He was a big swinging dick by 1998.
Yeah, he did all the Linkin Park albums and stuff too.
He did. I mean, he's done tons of shit.
Yeah,
just tons.
Throw up the first album cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nu metal was taking off here. I mean, nu metal was pretty damn popular. Korn, Slipknot, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit.
That's a good segue. Is this nu metal? I don't really see it.
It's adjacent.
It's alternative metal, sure. And nu metal is kind of
yeah.
Nu metal is either another term for alternative metal or it's like a sub genre of.
Yeah, I think when people say nu metal, I think generally they're talking about metal music that has like obvious hip hop influence, and I don't see that in this. Alternative metal seems like a right genre for it.
Serge has, I mean, his vocals. I mean, he does. I mean, there's screaming on this album, there's singing on this album, but there's also that sort of like really rhythmic, percussive, syncopated vocal style there too.
Right.
So it's not so far removed from that. They're in a class of their own. They're really hard to classify amongst other like alt metal and nu metal bands, I think. But But I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be weird to see them like if they were on tour with Korn or something. It's like they fit right in. I mean, it's not they're not so far divorced from that sound. I don't think. So there's a family resemblance there, but I really do think they're hard to classify. And I think alt metal, like Anthony said, that might be the best way to go about classifying them.
Yeah, I agree.
But like Rage Against the Machine is alt metal, and are like an obvious rap band,
I see
but
what you
no
mean,
one calls
yeah.
Rage Against the Machine new metal.
True.
So I feel like Rage Against the Machine has always sort of like thrown off that definition of new metal as hip hop metal fusion, because
That's
like
fair.
the most
Yeah,
obvious
that's fair.
band that did that is Rage Against the Machine, and no one calls that new metal. And I wouldn't call it new metal. It doesn't sound like Korn.
Rage does not like that label either, from what I understand.
So what is it that ties Korn and Limp Bizkit and who else is new metal?
Slipknot.
Slipknot. Yeah, what ties those three bands together that
Mudvayne is another good one.
yeah.
It might just be the zeitgeist. There's a common vibe to all those bands. The aggression, the down-tuned guitars, focus more on rhythm than melody. The vocal delivery. I think that there's commonality. Like
I agree. I'm trying to put my finger on it.
and they're all those singers are weird. Like one thing that I really like about new metal and alternative metal is that like all the vocalists are like kind of nuts. Like Surge is obviously very nuts.
Yeah.
John Davis from Korn is nuts. Corey Taylor on the early stuff.
Fred Durst, however, is an astute academic scholarly type.
All these groups hate Fred
That's
Durst. Yeah, but they're also kind of if you listen to interviews with Serj Tankian, he's very thoughtful, well spoken. You can tell he I don't know, thinks through what he says, and he's not just throwing things out.
Same with Corey Taylor in a different way, actually.
Yeah, exactly. He's I don't know. They're master contrarians too, but I think that's also something that kind of pulls them together. If you watch a System of a Down interview, I mean there are stupid interviewers and stupid interview questions, and they hear the same thing over and over again. So they got to give some variety to spice it up. But a lot of times, I don't know, a reviewer will suggest an interviewer will suggest something and they'll resist it just immediately. It seems like offhand, and I mean I think that's sort of the appeal of the music, especially for younger people in the early 2000s coming out of the 90s. I mean, especially going to the mid 2000s, just the political environment and stuff like that too. So I think there's a lot of it gave kids an outlet for like fuck the system, which I mean hip hop was doing that too, and I mean hip hop has always done that, but this is just a different outlet as well.
I think, speaking about the first album in particular, I think Surge's vocal performance on this album is one of the all-time great vocal performances, like, of all time, like, of any genre. Like, every sound that the human, pretty much every sound that the human voice can make, like, he makes it at some point on this album, and it's not even that long. It's only, like, a 40-minute album. He's doing indescribable stuff with his voice throughout this record.
I'm thinking specifically about suggestions, like the tail end of suggestions. How does he take his voice through that whole routine, man?
It's terrifying. What's the song?
Crazy.
Or that little run at the end of Sugar, where right before the breakdown, where he's like, "I'm alone in my desolate room."
Oh yeah, I love that.
There's like the whisper, the scream. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
What's the song? Vocalist. Is it Suggestions? Or it might be Darts. What's the song with "Free thinkers are dangerous"?
I think that's isn't that War?
Is it War? I don't think it's War. It might be Darts. Darts also has a Darts.
I have trouble remembering the song titles on this album, to be honest.
It's Mind, actually. It's on Mind. I just
Mind. Yeah, it's Mind.
Yes,
and then right after that,
Mind is an out there track. That's a filter track for this album for a lot of people. It's a weird
one. And then
one.
right after that, "Free Thinkers Are Dangerous" part in Mind, it like bursts out into like that heavy break, and like Serj starts doing like straight up death growls, like death metal.
Yeah, man.
And it's terrifying.
But then there's that like weird inhale screaming he does. You know what I'm talking about?
The high
it's like that weird chirp.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, we'll talk about. It's like on the one that's coming to mind. I can't use it on this one. I mean, he does it in Sugar a couple times, but there's the one on we'll talk about this later. But on Cigarro, after he's getting ready to go into the into the first verse, whatever, and he does that like really long inhale. It sounds like an inhale. I don't know, but it's extended there. There's a lot of.
You
that
mean like
going
the
on
thing
this
he
album.
does in Prison Song?
Yes.
Yeah, I know what
Yes.
you're talking about now.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, at the very
Yeah.
beginning of
Yeah.
Toxicity, the
Yep.
record.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
man.
he's doing a lot of crazy extended techniques with his voice, like all throughout the catalog, but in particular on the first album.
I agree. It's particular to this album. Like at the very end of Soil, that line, "Why did you take him away? Why did the fuck did you take him
You
away from us, you motherfuckers?" Like I don't know how anybody could scream that high pitched. Who's like I just don't know how anybody
you
could do it.
Motherfucker! Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's
the
it's so
vocals-
high pitched and so distorted. It's so badass, man. I love that section.
You know who the main vocalist who comes to mind as far as comparisons go? Maybe not exactly technique wise and sound wise, but just sort of how unhinged they are and the willingness to experiment with all these different kinds of techniques. And actually, I hear it more on one of the later albums we'll talk about, but is Mike Patton.
Yeah.
Surge
is a Patton
There's
fan.
a nice. Yeah. They toured together,
Yeah.
I think, when this album came out. But I think there's a lineage there in a way.
I definitely agree.
The music wise too, I mean, just musically, I think there's some, and I think when we did our Mr. Bungle episode, I think that came up as well. System of a Down showed up in that.
Yeah.
Just challenging expectations, that kind of like just zany, unhinged
Yeah.
approach to songwriting and things like that. A worthy successor.
This album too, I think, is the most out there of all five of them. Like by a decent stretch, yeah. There's more of it on Toxicity, or it's still there on Toxicity, but there's less of it. Less of it still on Steal This Album, and then a lot less of it still by Mesmerize.
I think
Yeah.
Steel is really weird. That's a really
Steel
weird
has
album. There's
Steel
a lot
this
of
album has a lot
Mike
of
Patton stuff
really
on there.
really weird songs on it. Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
But it's not as chaotic as this one. Like they're
No, this is
there's
unhinged.
still songs.
Yeah,
like
I've
this
used the
is
word a lot, but
this is just it's lunacy. It's total chaos.
This album is disturbing. It's disturbing. Like even in 2021, I think.
I agree. Yeah, there are moments that make you go into a dark hole in your brain, man.
it's the macabre, man. I think that's also some of the that is a, I don't know, it's like the car wreck you don't want to look away from. There's a lot of that vibe going on, and I was floating this around to some people. It's so weird to me that we were just talking about how did this stuff become popular, and I mean, this is anecdotal, but I share this around to people with varying music tastes, and a lot of them are like, this is terrible, or this is freaky, or my significant other does not like this music. She will not let me play them out on the speaker in the same room as her. So I gotta listen to headphones, which good for me. It sounds nice in some headphones, but this stuff's at once like it seems like an acquired taste, but it's also extremely popular, and it's gone down in like the canon and lore of metal music.
Oh, totally.
It's really weird.
Yeah, I mean, this band was a big fucking deal, man. Like, especially after Toxicity, and then it really after, like, when Mezmerize came out. I mean, we'll talk about it more later, but holy shit, these guys were just huge.
Yeah, every kid we went to school with, every
Yeah.
single kid we went to school with knew BYOB.
Everyone liked
even
it.
the normiest kids.
Yeah.
Even the normiest ass kids who we went to school with knew BYOB.
Yep, and liked it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's how I discovered them most
crazy.
from those kids. They just were like, you should listen to this song. It's BYOB, and I was like, this is the coolest shit I've ever heard up to this point.
Yeah, like the fucking like lacrosse players would like play System of a Down like in the fucking weight room.
Yeah. We did that in our lacrosse locker rooms. Yeah.
It's a weird cultural phenomenon because System of a Down is not normal music. It's weird music. It's not even normal heavy music.
and really, they aren't ever normal. Like, the closest they get to writing normal shit is Lonely Day.
Yeah, and that's their worst song.
Yeah, and it's their worst song. Yeah, you gotta hand it to them, man. That is a rare accomplishment to bring this level of avant-garde to a mass audience.
Yeah, and maybe it's just because like they got like a major label to put it out. They had Rick Rubin, as we mentioned earlier. Maybe just the fact that, like, and I feel like this is the case for a lot of, like, good, weird shit that gets popular, is, like, at some point someone with money believed in this. And, I mean, that's awesome. I think that is a factor, too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like we said, Rick Rubin being behind them. He produced this album.
And they all sound great. They all sound amazing.
Yeah, they do. They improve along the way, I think, but
oh yeah,
Rick Rubin is controversial as a producer. He's like definitely people who are like opposed to like the loudness war, as it's called.
Yeah, he's one of those loud, heavy.
He just compresses everything, and people don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds good on these records.
It's good for It's good for certain types of music. Yeah, there's tons of dynamic range on this album.
Yeah, the loudness doesn't sacrifice that. I don't think. Not in my experience with these albums.
I also wanted the screams at the beginning of Pluck, which is the last track on here. The walk down, when he's screaming walk down. I am not even going to try to impersonate it. I remember when I first heard that as a kid, I was like, this is fucking terrifying. Like, it scared me as a kid. Like, and I when I listened to System of a Down, I listened to the albums in reverse order, because I bought Mezmerize, and then I bought Hypnotize, hadn't been out yet, and then I bought Steal This Album and Toxicity, and then I listened to the first one last. And it took me a long time to like it when I was like a teenager, when I was 13, because it definitely like seemed pretty different from the other ones. It grew on me pretty fast. But this thing scared the shit out of me when I first listened to it. I remember it distinctly.
Pluck, I mean, it's also wild, there's this extremely popular album, and Pluck is, I mean, that is an extremely politically charged, one of their most politically charged songs in their entire discography for a band that's
saying a lot.
Very politically charged. Yeah, exactly. And so for this, for a major record label to take a chance on them and let them put lyrics like that on an album and then say, yeah, we're distributing this record. It baffles me how this stuff was even allowed to exist in the first place, but then how it became so popular. It's really strange. I'm glad it did, but it's really weird.
Even that album cover is scary.
Yeah,
it fits the music really well.
It fits it perfectly.
Yeah, so this is a poster from like 1920s Communist Party, like a pamphlet or something like that. Poster.
Pluck is explicitly about the Armenian genocide, and a lot of their songs are. Like, everyone in the band is of Armenian descent. And, like, it was actually, like, just earlier this year, like, Biden officially recognized the Armenian genocide, which is crazy. It took until this fucking year, 2021, for that to happen.
Dude, I think it was more than 100 years.
Yeah.
When was it? It was, like, it was 1910s, like, in the aftermath of World War I, think, right?
It was pre-World War II, I know that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was right there in the aftermath of World War I.
Well, the Ottoman Empire collapsed right after World War One, so it's about that time.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it still is, because there are still people who deny the genocide, but it was some controversy talking about it in the way that they did, and
just brazenly and straightforwardly.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of their lyrics, they had, I mean, there are times where the lyrics, they'll have a chorus that has nothing to do with the rest of the track, or it's really hard to see what has to do. And I mean, but they also have these tracks where it's just, I mean, Serge at multiple points will just kind of rant about, like Prison Song or whatever. He'll just start ranting about, like, this is what the government's doing with drug money, and this is what they're doing with prison, like,
or Boom.
Yeah, just
or Boom.
Yeah, just like so. Yeah.
One thing I like about that too is it never comes across as kitschy or anything. Like, it works. They make it work in the music, in a way that doesn't take away from the music.
It's preachy without being too preachy.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
I don't know how
they do that in a way that still sounds good. It's not just raw.
Well, it's because I feel like it's because it fits with the vibe of the music, but it also fits with the vocal style as well. I know other artists who try this thing and it just doesn't fit their mold. I think you and I, James, were talking about Steven Wilson sometimes, and he'll do like social commentary.
He's bad at
and
commentary, man. He's awful at commentary.
It's not great. Like, Personal Shopper is really trite.
I agree.
But it's a great song. I just don't. and I can appreciate what he's trying to go for in that. Like, I understand, like, oh yeah, mindless consumerism, you know, good, bad. What are the implications of this? But the way it's handled is just it's kind of trite.
Yeah, he's just not the guy.
But I never get that. Yeah, I just don't get the impression. Yeah, Steve Wilson's great for his, you know, fantasy lyrics and, you know, dealing with human sadness and things like that. But no, Serge doesn't seem to have that problem. And I think what's it? Is it Darren, the guitarist? I think a lot of the vocals are his, and so Serge is just delivering them. Yep. I mean, Serge writes some of the stuff, and he writes.
He wrote less and less as time goes on. Serge, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like by the end, it was almost all Malakian.
Yeah, Malakian eclipses Serge as like the creative force of the band as the discography goes on. Like, we're mainly talking about Serge for this first album because I do think Serge is the main star of the first album.
I agree,
Not to knock the other three dudes, but Darren becomes a heavier creative force as the discography goes on.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Move on to Toxicity.
Yeah. System of a Down debut, man. That is a landmark achievement.
Yeah.
It's a great album. And then
Toxicity. I mean, yeah, they followed up nicely, man.
This is a true album experience. They do a lot of the those cuts from one song to another where it just kind of bleeds into the next track. There's a lot of that going on. The pacing of the album is really nice. There's just an on this album, I think there was more of an eye toward, and you know, take it or leave it. A lot of people prefer the other style, but I really like albums like this. But there's a lot of, I think there was it seems to me anyway, I could be wrong about this, seems to me anyway that there was more of an eye towards like writing a holistic piece of music from start to finish with this record. Yeah, just like, I don't know, the thematic elements of the music just kind of moving. There's all these like, you know, 1 minute tracks squeezed in between longer tracks and things like that. Just different, like lots of stylistic, like, you know, All the World and Aerials at the end, and Arto at the end, you know, just like some really weird sort of experimental stuff happening here. But it helps with the pacing of the record. It's just something I really like about this album.
Yeah, we have probably their two of their best political songs in the early part of the album. Prison Song is the opener, and Deer Dance, and we have a lot of their best absurdist songs like Bounce. And
Jet Pilot.
Jet Pilot
what the
is
fuck?
total absurdity.
What the fuck? Is Jet Pilot just pure absurdity, or is there something to it?
Wired on the eyes of a horse of a jet pilot. I'm pretty sure it's just absurdity. It's good lyrics though. Like,
I love
it evokes
Yeah.
imagery, definitely, even if it's not literally anything being described. Yeah, Jet Pilot is heavy as fuck. It just Pilot just like instantaneously goes in with that. Like, there's no intro. It just the very first millisecond is Serge like screaming his fucking ass off.
Yeah. Well, then one of my personal favorites is Science. They tackle scientific reductionism and scientism. They got on the early end of that. So what's science doing to our society and stuff like that? I love that. I love that song.
Science is a classic. Yeah, and Forest is a good Forest. The lyrics of Forest are very enigmatic. I don't like. Those are some of. I don't know who did the lyrics, if it was Darren or Serge, but the lyrics of Forest are like very mysterious.
I think Serge did all the lyrics on this, and then Darren helped him on some of them.
Yeah, it's all Serge is on all of them. Then Malakian helped he's credited on Prison Song, Needles, Deer Dance, Chop Suey, ATWA, Psycho, and Aerials.
Okay.
All the rest were just Serge.
Oh, yeah, the lyrics of Forest are definitely, I think, pretty amazing, and also, like, I don't really have a read on them necessarily, but I don't have to. And Needles, of course, is one of the... Needles is so disgusting. Like, it's like almost not even funny. It's like almost just gross. Yeah. Oh yeah, that intro. Yeah.
It's disturbing. Yeah, this music's unsettling. I was listening to stuff while I was working, and I was so stressed at work, and then I realized I was like, after lunch. Yeah, after lunch, I was like, that's normally like right after lunch. I'm starting to get jittery. Like I've been sitting here all day. I want to do something else, you know, and yeah, I just had this like fucking itchy feeling,
Yeah.
man. And I was like, I'm listening to this music. I gotta stop for a minute because it's just it makes your skin crawl sometimes.
Yeah.
Dude, I had that exact same experience today. Like around noon, I was like, "Why am I so fucking on edge?"
Yeah.
It's probably
fucking
from System
listening to Sharon
System
and the
Down.
Boys. Yeah.
Scream at me for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Malakian does a lot of those good, like, really weird, like, I don't know how you would describe it as a guitarist. I don't have the language for it, but like the intro of Needles with like that, it's like this high pitched, like atonal strumming.
Yeah,
like the intro of
it's-
Needles, like the doodle doodle doodle.
Yeah,
and also
it's
the
funny.
intro of
I actually know exactly what he's doing there. It's a very simple
Yeah.
little lick, but the way he's catching the string with his pick creates a harmonic there towards the end, so it just kind of screeches at you a little more as the dynamic increases through that little
yeah,
bit.
it's screechy. And then also the intro of ADD on Steal This Album, the you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
That thing is brutal.
Yeah.
That thing like is ear piercing. I love that shit. And again, it's like crazy to me that this shit got popular when I think
Right.
about moments like that
Well,
in the
so-
catalog.
So let's talk about that. So there's a couple tunes on this album that became particularly popular, and it makes a lot of sense. Like Chop Suey is a fucking
That's their
dynamite
biggest hit.
hit.
Yeah.
It's a dynamite hit.
Guitar Hero helped out a lot with
Yeah.
that, but it was still really popular. It's still really popular when it came out.
It's still
Around
pretty
when it came out.
fucked up though. I mean that verse, the verse is very unsettling. I mean, like you get a
Angels
lot of
deserve to die.
you get a lot of resolve in the chorus, the Angels Deserve to Die section. But
Well, how about Surge at the
wake
beginning
up,
saying we're rolling suicide? That's like the first thing he says. We're rolling suicide.
Yeah. I think that Suicide might have been like the working title for it, you know. And that's what it's about. It's really a song about that. And
Yeah.
it's tackled in a really sort of oblique and really incredible way, and lyrically. And on the record.
Surge nails the more classic vocal delivery in that tune also.
He does.
Later on, when the piano comes in and they're reprising the chorus, he sings the piss out of that section.
Yeah, Surge, I don't know if we really mentioned that. Like, Surge can definitely just sing straight really well. Like, even on the first album, like on Spiders. He can sing
Yep.
melodically
Yep.
really well, and he does a lot more of that on this album, and even more on the later albums.
Yep.
But
And
yeah,
then there's
Chop
the
Suey
title
does
track, which
have
is also a classic. Oh, go ahead.
Chop Suey does have like the components of like kind of a like a hit
Right.
like heavy song. Like it has the big chorus and
Yeah, verse,
it has
chorus,
like catchy
verse, yeah.
vocal melodies and like a solid main riff. It is weirder than what was on the radio in 2001, but it makes sense that it was on the radio in 2001.
Yeah, I mean it's just that aggressive, the aggressive verses, and then it cuts out that bridge, and then it goes into the powerful chorus, and then kind of loops back around.
Yeah, it's
Just a masterfully crafted song.
the structure of Chop Suey is basically conventional.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call
Verse-
it a conventional song, but
Verse,
structurally,
verse,
it's
Just
chorus.
the content.
intro,
the
intro,
content
verse,
therein is
intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, reprise.
yeah.
Yes.
Not to
the-
reduce the song, but I guess it does make sense that this one became particularly popular.
The content in those parameters is just wide open though. So
Definitely. Yeah, I don't mean to reduce the song in any way.
What else were you going to say was a classic, Jake?
just the title track.
That was another big hit, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my early favorites when I first discovered System of a Down. It's one of the songs that I gravitated to before I started listening to the full albums. I still love that track. It's probably one of maybe in my top 10. Yeah.
I love the drumming, the really great drumming from John Dolmayan on the title track, especially on the intro. Those fills that like happen in between the riff. I always love the drumming on that.
He's a killer drummer, man.
He's definitely a power drummer.
They're doing something really weird on the title track. I can't remember what it was. They're like using this weird meter. I don't think it's odd time. It's just they're just doing something really weird with the meter there. I haven't had a chance to like count it out and stuff.
It's all in 6.
I think all this stuff's it's in 6. Okay, that'd be it then. Yeah. It's harder to headbang too. That's how I can tell as a layperson.
Yeah, the riff is definitely a little off. It's like, I don't know how to describe it musically, but it's definitely like, it's the riff and then the fills, and the riff kind of comes in a little bit later than you would expect
Yeah.
it to.
So
Right.
Malakian has this clean tone that you hear a lot that sort of sounds like a sitar. It's definitely on Toxicity. Where else?
Yeah, I
think it's
know.
in I think it's
You're
in
talking about like
Science.
you're talking about like there's the heavy instrumental intro of the title track, Toxicity, and then like it kind of goes clean before the vocals and the tone when it goes
Right.
clean. That's what you're talking
Yep.
about, right?
And that clean guitar tone is very peculiar. I don't really know exactly what he's doing with it. It's very glassy, but it's strong. It almost sounds like an acoustic instrument, sort of like a sitar. But I don't know what he's doing with it.
He's a super creative guitarist all throughout these
Definitely.
albums.
Absolutely.
I remember being a lad on Facebook, and someone made some stupid group called like Darren Malakian is the shittiest guitar player of all time. And I remember even then I was like, who is this douchebag? What a stupid fucking hot take.
I remember back in the day on Facebook, back in like 2008, like there would be like anyone who had like any random thought would make it a group that you
Yep.
could join. Like,
yeah.
It would be like what would now be just a tweet. Like someone would like post an opinion as a tweet, but like back in the day on Facebook, like you would like just post that, and then it would be a group that that like you could join. It was so stupid.
At least then it was contained, and I didn't have to see it all the time. But you know, also I gotta mention, I think this album, and it's always been the case. This album cover for some reason I find it incredibly disturbing. So it's obviously it's a take on the Hollywood sign.
Yeah.
But as I look at it, it looks like they're on Mars or something, or it's like the Earth has been stripped of all its natural resources or something. It's just like a dead planet or something like that.
I think they're going for that with. I think that's the toxicity of our city. I think that's what they're going
yeah.
for.
I'm thinking about old like cheesy like B-movie sci-fi movies from like the 70s. Yeah, and like you know like they're on Mars, they're out in the desert somewhere, and like the sky is just like a dead color, and the ground is all you know desert landscape, and you know just gross, everything's dead, and but not even just like you know it's not dark like the death is dark, it's dead as in like nothing, or it's just like bland, or it's really disturbing. And then just all these like little like I don't know craters in the side and stuff, like it just looks I don't know, it looks weird, and it's unsettling to look at, but it's a great album cover.
It is, yeah.
This was the only System of a Down album that was not released with the parental advisory label, which I remember because that mattered to me with what I could buy when I was a kid. And I got to buy this without it being edited because it wasn't released with the parental advisory.
Ugh, edited albums.
They don't drop any
Holy shit,
F-bombs
that's
or anything,
something I
do
haven't
they?
thought about in a long time.
Yeah, I don't think they say fuck at all. There's obviously plenty of vulgar moments on the album, but I don't think they say
deal with a
fuck.
lot of deep stuff too.
Pull the tapeworm out of my ass. I didn't get it a parental advisory sticker.
And Bounce is just about.
It's about
Bounce
group
is what
fucking.
It's obviously about. Yeah, Bounce is about a gang. It's about a gangbang.
Well, it's about a reverse gangbang.
It's about.
She had so many friends.
The lyrics were just too heady for the censor. It didn't catch it.
Yeah, Walmart was fine with pull the tapeworm out of your ass, but
oh yeah, Walmart. You could only buy edited CDs at Walmart. I remember
that's right.
Let's not pretend FCC guidelines make any sense. I always think it's funny. If you go back and watch Scream, one time I watched like the TV edited version, and it's the part where Drew Barrymore's character gets killed and she's like hanging from the tree or whatever, and they show like, I know it's not, I mean that's obviously not real, but it's like the entrails hanging out, and they're fucking showing all the gore, and then her parents are screaming like shit and they're bleeping it out, and I'm like, there's like a dismembered person in the tree, but I can't hear them say cuss words.
Yeah, I mean that observation is like such a trope from our childhood, because like super violence was totally kosher. Like everyone could kill fucking everybody in any movie, and that was totally cool. Like, all the blood and gore, but no fucking and no naughty language.
Yeah, you can't say ass.
Yeah, can't say ass. Yeah. No boobs, but Arnold Schwarzenegger like ripping people's entrails out through their mouths. That's fucking totally kosher.
We grew up in like we grew up like in like the heartland of socially conservative suburbia.
Yeah.
And like,
yeah, it's true.
and that's when we got into System of a Down, and this shit was dangerous, dude. Just like this shit, we could have definitely got in trouble listening to this shit. Like we had to kind of like make it something that was like kept secret from the adults when we listened.
Maybe
to
that's
this
part
shit.
of the allure here.
Yeah.
That unlocks something here.
I didn't
think.
have that experience with my parents in particular, but I can imagine that with some of our other friends.
My parents didn't know what the hell I was
Yeah.
listening to in high school, so it was fine. Except a couple of bands, maybe.
School, yeah, for sure, especially at our Catholic school. That's true.
That makes sense, yeah. It's a public school, anything goes.
Yeah, Toxicity's their biggest album, and
Is it?
Yeah, it's triple platinum.
Oh, is it? Okay.
it's probably their magnum opus. I would say Toxicity probably is, even
I
though
think so.
I would rank the first album above it personally.
Yeah.
I would probably call Toxicity their magnum opus.
If I was going to recommend to somebody that they try out System of a Down, I'd tell them listen to Toxicity.
Yeah.
One thing about all these albums is that all these albums are pretty short albums, but they seem a lot longer than they are because there are a lot of songs,
Yeah.
and all the songs do a lot of work in a short amount of
Yep.
time, which I really
Yep.
appreciate.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, even the later albums are much shorter. They get shorter and shorter, I think, as they go along.
Mezmerize is like 36 minutes long, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild. Well, and then, of course, Steel is... Well, we can talk about it here, but
Yeah.
Steel is a whole other thing.
In fact, let's do that.
Steel is the album with which I'm, like, least familiar.
Same.
I think, I would say.
Yeah, same, but damn is it fucking good.
No,
It's really
so
good.
Fucking good. Classic
It's-
after
yeah,
classic after classic.
Yeah. Well, of course, this album came together as this music was a lot of it was recorded contemporaneously with Toxicity, right? But they felt that some of the songs wouldn't work on Toxicity, and I'd seen interviews where people have suggested to the band, well, it's just a B-side record, and the band takes exception to it. I think a lot of members of the band like this album the best. And I mean, I can imagine that would be irritating. They write a bunch of music, and for them, it just didn't fit the aesthetic of the album, or it didn't work within the scope of the album. But they still felt that we poured our soul into this and wrote really good music, so we wanted to release it in some medium. And so then you got some dildo with a microphone saying, "Oh, so just your bunch of cast-off songs that didn't make it onto the good album,"
Right.
No.
And that's just not the case here. I mean, I can understand. Like, there are a lot of tracks that are just stylistically wouldn't have worked on that album, but they are excellent tracks nonetheless. So they're really the sole arbiters of like whether it counts as a full like LP release. But I think that alone, even without their blessing, it's I would still count it among that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't listened to this in a very, very long time. This is the album I've revisited the least by a long stretch. Actually, probably Hypnotize too, but
I've listened to
Yeah.
that one more than this, just for obvious reasons. But.
probably about equal for me. But yeah, god damn, this is such good shit. I don't know why I don't know why it's taken a back seat in all of my revisits.
This never took a backseat for me at all. I always loved this album.
I think it's a marketing thing. I mean, look at the album cover first of all.
I loved the packaging, like the CD. It had no sleeve, and you saw the cover, and it looked like
Yeah.
a burned CD. I thought it was genius packaging. I loved it the first time I saw it back in the day. But yeah, these aren't B-sides. These tracks are amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of the best System of a Down songs are on here. IEAIAIO is an absolute classic track.
That's where I feel like Mike Patton comes out.
Yeah. IEAIAIO is like absurdist System of a Down par excellence.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
Chicken Stew also.
Chicken Stew also, yeah. And Fuck the System too, which
Yep.
is like sort of straddles political and absurdism. Mr. Jack is an amazing song. New Guns.
Jack.
New Guns might be in my top 5 of all time. System of a
Yeah,
Down
New
songs.
Guns
New
slaps.
Guns is an incredible song. One of the best choruses from Surge.
New Guns totally slaps.
and then a lot of their best political songs. Boom is one of the absolute best political System of a Down songs. So is ADD.
There's just a speech going on in that one. I mean, he just lays it out. No holds barred right there.
I love the bass line. Something about the intro of Boom with Odagian and Dolmayan. I don't know what they're doing, but it sounds super fuzzy in a way that's on purpose, and it sounds awesome. Have you ever noticed that about the intro of Boom? It like almost sounds like it's like there's like radio static interfering with it. It's super
I
cool.
I can hear it now that you're talking about it, but I didn't think about that when I listened to it.
And yeah, he's doing like Surge. It's the verses of Boom aren't quite as explicitly spoken word as like some Moments of Prison song, but he's doing kind of like a sing talking in Boom. That's pretty awesome.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I think he channels some of his inner Mike Patton. There's some very Mr. Bungle-esque moments on this album, especially in IEA. AIO. I don't know if I got all of those correctly, but it's a tough one.
Just sing it out in your head before you say it.
You just have to sing it.
Yeah, you just got to sing it out, man.
I was thinking of that one. ADD has some of that vibe, just unhinged, kind of almost verging on. I mean, this is where I think it verges on hip hop almost. I mean, there's just like a really percussive, syncopated. He's almost using his voice like a percussion instrument. I think at times, it's really cool.
And then Roulette, which is it's just like a straight up ballad, and I think and the lyrics are very simple but really effective. Roulette is an amazing track.
Is this their longest album?
43 minutes. I think it might be. The first one might be a little longer.
Toxicity is 44 minutes, and the debut is 40 minutes. So Toxicity is the longest one. By a minute,
but Toxicity
by less
Toxicity has some like kind of has like there's like some silence at the end of Aerials, so you have to take that into account.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, it was a real blast going through this one again, man. Because these were the freshest to my ears, just because I've listened to it the least over the years. Yeah, this is just every bit as quality as the first two albums. Every bit is high quality.
I thought this was. I don't know if you guys felt the same. I thought this was one of their more experimental records. It's really fucking zany compared to the first two. I thought they went out of the bounds of that, just like straight alt metal kind of stuff. I know there's just a lot more like flourishing and weird little happening. I mean, they're on all the records, but on this one especially, just sprinkled throughout, just a lot of weird things going on in this record. So many different kind of layers and things like that.
Yeah, this one doesn't make it doesn't send me into a hole like the first album, or somewhat in the same way as Toxicity. But it's definitely still got all those quirks and.
I would call Steal this album sort of like I would call Steal this album kind of like somewhere in the middle aesthetically of the first album in Toxicity. It's like somewhere in between.
Yeah,
I think
that's right.
If it's in between, maybe leaning a little bit toward Toxicity aesthetically, but I think it's like almost squarely in the middle. It's like straddling
which
two.
would make sense because this stuff was written at the same time as Toxicity. But I agree with that assessment.
How long after Toxicity did this release? So
Not
this
long,
is
right?
2002. It released November 2002. Toxicity
year.
released in September 2001. So just over a year.
Oh yeah, that is something we didn't talk about. Toxicity. It released like a week before 9/11.
Yep.
That was a huge thing.
Yeah.
That was like a big deal.
Apparently they took Chop Suey off the air for some reason.
Yeah. Well, because they were critical of the American government in that album.
Right. Can't have that.
Yeah, that was definitely foreshadowed. I mean, Bush was president, obviously, when it came out, but pre 9/11, it's a different ballgame. Definitely was foreshadowing the Bush era on Toxicity.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah.
System of a Down in general, I just, as a general comment, I'm surprised I didn't already say this, is just like peak Bush era protest music.
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
It's embedded in the zeitgeist, as you said earlier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I totally.
So
agree.
you don't have any kind of theory at all, James, as to why you didn't listen to this one as much when we were younger?
No, I really don't know. It just never clicked in the same way. I guess I never didn't like this album. I think it might even have been that I listened to it more as a kid, and I just revisited it less over the last, I don't know, 12 years or so.
Fuck the System is definitely a lot of fun when you're a teenager.
Yeah. I think for me it was just like, well, I was introduced through different albums, and so, I mean, as a kid, I'm just like, I'm absorbing all I can from a particular album. My music habits are like that. If I listen to an album, I will listen to it like 20 times just to get everything I can out of it. So that's probably like the circumstances how I was introduced to the music. But I also think, I mean, as a high schooler, I'm looking at this album and the packaging is like weird. And yeah, it's cool, but I was just like, I just didn't take it seriously when I saw it or something like that. Is maybe what happened. I don't know. There's no obviously listen to it again. There was no reason that I shouldn't have listened to it. On par with the
exactly.
other ones.
Same for me.
Yeah, I think we made the joke, or we were talking how like, you know, we'll put our like album rankings in the chat, and I just had one where it's just completely flat. All of the albums are equal to one another. It's like that's kind of how I feel.
That's close to right.
So yeah,
that's close to right.
That's not far off.
Yeah,
exactly. It's gonna be tough to rank these at the end. I hate that we have to do that, but you know, so it goes.
Yeah, short but sweet catalog. This one is.
Yeah,
it is.
It's close to a perfect catalog.
It's damn close to perfect. Yeah. So one other quick little anecdote about this record. So part of the reason that they released it so quickly after Toxicity, I think, is because a bunch of the stuff got leaked and was getting shared around file sharing networks.
This is the early days of that, I guess.
Yeah, and they were like, well, we don't want people listening to the bullshit, demo recordings of these tracks, so we should probably release the real shit.
Well, it's also like for marketing reasons, because if you get the album out more quickly, people are more likely to buy it, and you've like there's less time you've lost to do that too. You can kind of control the marketing of it more easily.
That happened to Tool for
Nowadays,
Lateralis. A bunch of people uploaded just like totally fake songs and like with the titles of tracks from Lateralis before it came out. Like early 2000s is really when like the Wild West of file sharing was starting.
Yeah, there's another weird story about System of a Down here. So there was this track that it was shared just a shitload of times on LimeWire. Some guy titled it SOAD - Legend of Zelda, and it's this song written to the tune of the Legend of Zelda main theme, right? And it's not System of a Down. Well, like, we know who it is. It's some other guy. I can't remember his name, but for some reason, there's a shitload of people that think there's this Legend of Zelda song by System of a Down that just happens to sound nothing like System of a Down. Have you guys ever heard this? Have you heard this at all? It's weird.
Like early to mid 2000 like urban myths on the internet and stuff.
Right.
That kind of like that stuff was so stupid but also kind of wholesome. Like it's a different era of the internet. It's really funny.
It's the Wild West. Wild West.
That's totally something
the internet, man. I mean, this is pre-social media. The only people on the internet really were kids and adults that were hip to the internet.
Yep.
And adults who were hip to the internet were probably in some way very weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like early to mid 2000s internet.
My mom was really active on the X-Files fan forums in the 90s, and if I would have been an adult in the 90s, I probably would have been as well.
Yeah, man, forums that was the way to go. I remember being in middle school and going on video game forums and like asking people for cheat codes and stuff like that. Yes, the good old days, man.
Game fact.
Nowadays, I just click it. There's like 100 websites with all the cheat codes, and back in the day, you had to ask some fucking weirdo. It's like this dude might be 45 years old and he's giving me cheat codes for Sonic Adventure 2. Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, you had to talk to people, even if it was the internet.
Wild West internet, man. That was a fun time.
Sure was.
That was a fun time. The good glory days of Flash animation.
There were like forums where like mechanics like to go, and like if you had like a problem with your car, you'd have to like go on the mechanic forum and like ask them, and these dudes would just like these like gearhead nerdy dudes would like hang out and like answer people's questions about their cars. Did you ever have to do that?
No.
Yeah.
But
I remember my dad doing
the
it
internet.
once.
Yeah, the internet in the 2000s was comprised mostly of nerds, but not the kind of like mainstream nerdism that goes on nowadays. Like actual
Hobbyists.
nerds.
Yeah, hobbyists.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hobbyists. Yeah, exactly. Self-trained experts. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it already, but this album cover captures that time so perfectly. I mean, how many of those burned CDs did you guys have lying around? I had so many of those in my CD wallet.
I still have some of those in the closet here, like my old mixtapes and stuff that I made.
Yeah, like I had all the classic prog albums on one of those old burnable CDs.
Yeah, all the King Crimson and Yes.
Yep,
I burn all
King
that
Crimson,
for you,
all the
brother.
Yes. Yeah, man.
Yeah. Are we gonna move on to
Yeah, let's do it.
next one? Another big Kahuna.
Another big Kahuna. This was the entry point for me. Was
Me too.
Mezmerize. Yeah, right when BYOB was huge. What's the other single from this? Is it Question?
Question.
Yeah,
Which is
I
an
think
amazing
Violent
track.
was Violent Pornography a single also.
I don't think
That
so, but
would've
there's
been
a
awesome
lot
if
of
it
there are a
was.
lot of yeah, I don't think it was, but there are a lot of tracks. So when I think of this one, I think of just like really well known
Yeah,
like
these
metal radio friendly songs. Like you wouldn't play it on like top 40 radio, but like there are a lot of hits on this, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean,
compared to the first three albums.
so
I mean,
many.
Steel is in that, but yeah, this one's
BYOB,
like big time.
Radio Video.
Cigarro,
Cigaro is such a
Violent
meme.
Pornography.
And
Yeah,
this
that's a great
cocaine makes
song.
me feel like I'm on
Cigaro's
this song is a
classic.
huge meme too.
Yeah, it is.
I like this cocaine makes me feel like I'm on this song. I love that shit.
Yeah, that's my entry point too. I remember being at a party, and my friend had
People
an
invited you to
iPod or
parties?
something. Oh yeah, dude! I don't know how it happened, but thankfully I was at this party. Works out.
You maxed out your speech stat.
Just enough so I
And
could
we're
ask him if I could
And we're
listen
able
to
to
the song.
talk people into it.
The party was in a forum for Sonic Adventure 2 Battle.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That
I never
was-
said.
that
I
was
never.
the forum.
Yeah,
The
Or that
party was
I
in
never said
Minecraft
this in person
with
Yeah.
NPCs.
No, to be real, it was my birthday party, and I invited a lot of people, and only 2 people showed up. One dude left halfway through. The only guy
Come on,
who was
man.
left was showed me this.
You didn't have to ruin
This
the
was last
podcast
year.
like that. Jesus.
This
Like,
was last.
all right.
This was last year. Anyway, what were you saying?
Oh man. Oh no! The first time I ever heard this was he I was at this fucking party and this dude let me listen to it on his iPod. I can't say it now. I should have said I was at school and he fucking played it on his iPod.
I used to
opened up
love
a whole new world of music.
I used to love like listening to other people's iPods. That was always fun.
This was before the iPod touches and stuff too,
Mm-hmm.
or like right around the time that they were being released.
Dude, Tone is still rocking an iPod Classic.
Yeah, it's right here, right there.
Nice.
I still need It's about time for me to move on. It still works. Like the hardware works on this thing perfectly fine, but like the software is starting to lag behind it.
Yeah, sure.
Like it's hard to sync this thing. Like it'll like iTunes. It's not even called iTunes anymore. It's just called Music on the Mac. It'll like do all kinds of weird shit when I plug this in. Like not because there's anything wrong with it, but just because the software is like has eclipsed it so much. Makes me sad.
Do your part and get a streaming service, and then so you can give that 0.03 cents to the artist per listen.
I spend a lot of fucking money on music. I give a lot of my money to musicians.
Yes, you should. That's yeah. I
I
probably
buy
should as
so
well.
many records and CDs, so yeah, not worried in that regard. But yeah, Mezmerize was definitely iPod core back in 7th grade.
Yes. That is iPod. That's core iPod core.
Yeah. Yeah, like every single one of these songs was a huge meme with all of us. We sang the lyrics to like pretty much every single one of these songs to each other all the
Oh,
time.
I know every
Cracked up at a lot
word
of
on
them.
this album. I know
Yeah.
every word on this album.
Cigaro was the funniest shit in the world to a 13-year-old.
It's still funny.
It is still
it's
funny.
still it's still funny, and it carries more meaning. I think.
Yeah.
You know, the context makes more sense now. It's not just a dude talking about his cock.
Yeah.
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 This is
man.
definitely the album where Darren definitely like shares vocal duties a lot more with
Yep.
Serge.
Yeah.
What do you think of Darren as a singer?
I like him. He's not as strong a singer as Serge. Obviously, he just doesn't have the same range and dynamic ability. But he's a good singer. He makes for a good harmony singer.
Exactly.
Especially for songs like this. Yeah, he does. I mean, BYOB, he's screeching in that song.
Yeah, like he does a lot of screams on BYOB, and like there's that video of him like where they like quote unquote do a cover of Dark Throne, and
Yeah.
like for two.
Yeah.
And Darren does those like black metal vocals for like 2 seconds, and they sound
Yep.
good. Like Darren, like
Yeah,
I
man.
feel like Darren like could like sing black metal. Like unironically, I think he could, and he's like almost doing it on some parts of BYOB.
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't know. This was the first time I ever noticed this was today. I was listening to BYOB, and the line where it's sort of like a chant, where the fuck are you?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Serge is just like yelling it, right? But Malakian is in the background screeching it at the top of his lungs.
Freaking
Like
out.
just
Yes.
at this crazy high pitch at the absolute top of his fucking lungs. I never noticed that until today, and I've heard this song hundreds of times.
Why do they always send the pour when he screams it at the end? Like after he does that part.
Oh yeah,
Brutal.
I remember the
Yeah.
first time I heard that song, hearing that line in the beginning where Malakian screams, "Why do they always send the pour?" It's just like, what am I listening to? Who are
yeah.
these
It was
guys?
like holy shit.
Like, whoa, that was edgy, man.
Yeah,
Holy shit, that was edgy. I don't know if I'm ready for this.
I wasn't when I first heard it. I wasn't. Yeah, like
Oh, man.
if
Yes.
if it was on a different album, it would just be black metal. Like some of those screams from Darren. Like
Yeah.
it's brutal, and it's good. He nails it. I don't
agree.
think he gets enough credit. I don't think Darren specifically gets enough credit for his harsh vocals. Maybe because he doesn't
Yeah.
really do them that much on these albums.
No, that's something I really liked about these albums that I think gives them. If they have any edge over the others, that's part of it. That he's more involved in the vocals. I really like that about this album.
So Darren obviously comes more to the forefront on this one, but it's still loaded with Serge in the
Yeah.
vocals. Apparently, he was like pretty done with the band by this point. Like he didn't really want to be doing it. Is what I've been reading. But
Yeah,
Well, he was doing his solo stuff, and I think he was doing a lot of like humanitarian work and stuff, like political activism and things like
I
that.
think there were some
and then-
there were some difficulties about finances too. I think.
That, and I think there were not that they disliked each other or anything. There's like mutual respect, but I think there was some burnout and like differences on how to like take the band thematically and stylistically and things like that. And that's what I had read anyway. But it's so hard to get this is the kind of thing. This is akin to gossip, like speculating on
Yeah.
this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I mean I don't know. They'll make comments like these people, these members of the band will make comments in interviews, and one will say one thing, one will say another thing, as people do.
Sure.
And then sometimes they contradict themselves. They're like, I don't remember what I said, or like that's how I felt about it that day. It's like just I don't know. You can't put a lot of stock in that kind of stuff. So my guess is that Serge was busy and maybe burnt out a little bit. But I mean, being in a big band like this, we talked about that with Deep Purple, So
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't
take a lot out of you.
It doesn't sound like he was out of the band. I mean, I would never have known that until I read it. He's just killing it on this album.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No. I mean, I wonder if he's the kind of guy who's just like, okay, I mean, maybe I don't want to be doing this, but if I'm going to do it, it's going to be good. Like, I'm not gonna half-ass it or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't sound in any way half-assed to me.
No.
Yeah.
But there is a shift. There is a shift.
Yes.
On here compared to the previous 3 albums.
I agree.
It's
more
pretty,
song-oriented.
It's obviously the same band, but it's pretty different. Like, it's pretty different. There's a... I don't even know exactly how to describe it, but there's a shift, and anyone who listens through these 5 albums can sense it and does. Mezmerize and Hypnotize are kind of their own thing compared to the first 3. I kind of divide the discography and like with a line there.
So insofar as this makes sense, and there's obviously like a restricted domain I'm talking about here, but I thought that on these 2 albums, on this and Hypnotize, the vibe, they mellowed out a little bit in a way. Like some of the songwriting gets a little softer in places.
Sure.
And that's just kind of in my impression. It's just not as... I don't know, I go back and listen to Toxicity, I'm like, this is an assault. Like, it's just all the way through. Just heavy, mean, aggressive. And there are a lot of moments like that on Mezmerize, but I thought it was just a lot more chilled out or something.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot more, like, standard song vocals, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Old School Hollywood. Old School Hollywood is like a synth pop song almost.
Yeah, and then Lost in Hollywood, too.
Yeah, the 2.
Violent Pornography is kind of chilled out compared to... I mean, it's a weird track, but it's like, it's a little more subdued.
I
mean, you just got to... Yeah. If you listen to this album and you haven't heard anything else from them, you would say, what do you mean it's subdued? It's really weird, freaky,
sure.
Heavy stuff.
Especially, like, we were just talking about how fucking crazy BYOB is.
Revenja is also pretty nuts. Especially those
really
verses.
weird. Yeah.
Those staccato verses from Surge.
Just like fast, like
Dude, there are some unbelievably heavy moments on this album too, though. Like all of Cigarro. Cigarro is insanely heavy. Like especially towards the end, like when they're closing it out, like during the climax of Cigarro, it's heavy as fuck.
I got these headphones where I can like slide the bass up on the side, and that is a song I just put my headphones on, just slide the bass up, just fucking feel that track, dude. That is a heavy fucking song.
That's a killer track, man. Sad Statue gets heavy as shit. Yeah, Question gets heavy as shit.
Question is one of the very best System of a Down songs.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Agreed.
Great dynamic range.
Huge dynamic range.
Yeah, the composition's excellent.
The end of Question is insane with that scream. Is it the 2 of them screaming together, or is it just Surge at the end of Question? I need to listen. I need to try to parse that.
It's probably both of them. I know the scream you're talking about, but I don't know. It could just be Surge. It could easily just be Surge.
But as it fades out at the very end, Surge's voice, he loses his voice kind of, and it is beautiful. It's like very organic and like pretty moving, honestly. Question is an amazing song.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Question is like one of the few, maybe not one of the few, but it's definitely one of the System of a Down songs that has like no irony at all to it.
That's it. It's authentic. It's genuine. There's no smirk on Question.
There's no smirk at all on Question.
Yeah. Depending on what your stance is on Lonely Day, if you think it's a genuine or not.
So we'll get there. I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why don't we take that as a segue? Anybody else have anything else to say about Mezmerize?
Mezmerize.
I just love it. It's a fucking nostalgia trip, man. It's great, but it's also just a really good album.
It's at the same. It's simultaneously a total nostalgia trip and also just an incredible album. Amazing.
It's just songs. So memorable. Yeah.
And it was upon this album's release that we got into it, which I think is cool.
That's probably the first album that I ever heard. This is probably one of the first albums I ever heard that was, released when I was listening to it.
From Under the Cork Tree.
Yeah, I was going to say From Under the Cork Tree too, man. Unfortunately, Jesus, those are 2 different calibers of release, but I mean, this is the entry point.
From Fear Through the Eyes of Madness by Coheed too.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah,
that is right.
I'm like weirdly proud that at like those albums we mentioned, like that I got into them when they came out, because music that came out a long time ago. I guess as I get older, it's like surreal to think that I got into it when it came out.
Yeah, this was 17 years ago.
It was a long ass time ago.
Yeah, Mezmerize, man. What a killer. And so we come to the conclusion. Hypnotize. Real quick, great album covers, both of these. And of course,
Yes.
so it is a double album. It's technically a double album. And I remember the actual cases. So if you bought the physical copies for this album, you could turn the two copies into one like album sleeve, basically. There was a way to it was like a puzzle. It was like a puzzle piece connection. Yeah, exactly.
And like the painting would be like one big painting across
Yep.
the gatefold of the two CDs. It was really cool
Yep.
packaging.
And it's Malakian's father's artwork.
Yep.
He
Oh, I
painted
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, they're super
pendulum faces
creepy.
are
Both of
insane.
the covers.
Yeah, they both are pretty wonky.
Whew, that one's that's messed up.
They're
Yeah.
super cool though. Like I want that on my
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
So the
So
final
Hypnotize.
System of the Down album.
Yeah. So Hypnotize.
There's not going to be another one.
No, there won't
There's
be.
not going to be, despite the couple of teases we've gotten over the past.
We did
years.
we got those two new ones last year.
Yeah, there was the big one back in 2016. I remember, like they said, we're reunited. The album is coming out next year, and it didn't, and it never will. So we have the final
Tough.
album here.
Hey, it's. I mean, I don't know. It's I like I said earlier. This discography is perfect, and not that I wouldn't doubt them that they couldn't make another great album, but at the very least, I know that this discography that we have is the way it is, and it won't be. It's kind of like we did with the Mr. Bungle episode, where it's like Raging Wrath. Tone, you were like, yeah, it's this weird footnote you have to talk about now in the discography.
It is,
which
yeah.
I totally appreciate. I definitely understand that sentiment, because if they wrote another album and it was just not as good, or whatever, then it's there, and it's like, well, damn, we waited all this time for. I just wouldn't want to be set up for disappointment. So it's a kind of a toss up. If they wrote another album on par with these, like hell yeah, bring it on. But also, I've given up hope that they're gonna release another one, and I really don't think they need to.
I'm fine with
I'd
it.
be happy if they did.
I am too.
But I've come to terms with it, and it's totally fine.
If you've got a damn near perfect discography, let it lie.
Yep. No one to quit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's at no point did they jump the shark.
I don't think so at all.
So in my opinion, Hypnotize, I think Hypnotize is excellent. I think there are a lot of great tracks, but in my opinion, it's significantly the worst of the five.
Yeah, it's a drop.
Significantly.
You could put any of those first four as the number one, and it'd be totally cool.
Although I'd respect someone who put this at number one too. Like
has
I
anyone
still,
ever done such a thing?
I don't think so, but I could understand it.
Surely there's somebody.
Yeah,
there are moments
definitely.
on this album that are every bit as good as the rest of this discography.
Yeah.
Like Vicinity of Obscenity is amazing.
That's my
Attack is
I would
awesome.
say that might be my
Attack is great.
Yeah. I think Vicinity of Obscenity is my favorite System of a Down track. If I had to pick one, that's really hard to do. But if I had to pick one, it's that it would probably be that one.
Yeah.
I think it's the one I listen to most.
It's a great tune. I mean, it's just classic, absurd System of a Down. Then Dreaming's good.
Too, man.
Kill Rock and Roll is not my favorite.
Kill Rock and Roll's
I like
alright.
Ufig.
Yeah.
Ufig and Stealing Society.
Yep, I like both of those tunes.
She's Like Heroin. I love the back to back of Vicinity of Obscenity. She's Like Heroin. Those are freaky songs. Both of them are really freaky.
They are, yeah. And
She's
then,
Like Heroin has never totally. I've never totally gotten on board with She's Like Heroin.
I just love the opening riff, man. The way
That is a cool riff.
and then the drum comes in. Oh yeah, and then Darren's vocals come in. They're just they're horror movie shit, man.
I agree
walked
that it's a
into
cool riff, but there's something about She's Like Heroin that just like doesn't sell me completely. Maybe
I'm
I'll
kinda
change
with
my
Tone.
mind about it, but I've been
Yeah.
listening to this shit for
Really?
a long ass
Yeah,
time. So
I listened to this
I don't
twice
know.
in the last, once today and once yesterday, and both times I had the same impression.
as me.
I love that track.
Yeah.
I think those two are the highlights of the album for me. Anyway, I think the very end. I mean, of course, Lonely Day comes right after it, and
So we got to talk about Lonely Day.
Lonely Day
I
is
just
bad.
read something where I think you're right, James,
Yeah,
that it was serious.
I would love for that song to be some kind of weird parody, but of bad like alt rock songs from the 2000s. But I don't think that's what it is.
It
I
wouldn't
couldn't
be
find
good.
anything to
It's also
confirm it.
parody.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Let's not just say that. That's like this like ironic trap that people get into where they can like make a bad joke or say something stupid. And they're like, "Oh, it's just joking," or it's irony, and it's like, well, that still doesn't make it funny. You know, it doesn't make it good. Just because you can't just back. It's like Tommy Wiseau at The Room, where he's like, that movie is really bad, and people like it because it's bad, but then he's got hip to it, and he's like, he's totally coping, and he's like, oh, I did that on purpose. It's like, well, that doesn't mean just because you did it on purpose. Like, it's okay, it's good because it's bad, fine, but it doesn't get to be good just because you did it on purpose. Like, it doesn't get you out of that. So, even if it were a parody, it's definitely maybe their weakest. It definitely is their weakest song.
Yeah, I mean, good satire makes you like whatever is the target of the satire.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, on the other side of it, if there's anything positive we said about it, it's catchy enough, and I don't hate listening to it. I don't go, damn, this really fucking sucks. I need to turn it off. But that's the best I can say about it. It's not my favorite. It's nowhere close.
I'm not gonna lie, bros. I skipped it today on my second Hypnotize listen.
Oof.
Yeah.
I can't do it when I listen. I have to listen to it. It's part of the thing. But it's rough. It's a rough one.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it as much as some other cheesy. I give them the benefit of the doubt. But what always made me think it was a parody, what stole it from me, is when he says it's the most loneliest day of my life.
I remember thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's so stupid it can't be real. But unfortunately,
But then, apparently it's about his Darren's brother who passed away in a fire or something like that. So
so.
But
I mean, that's
I kinda
sad
feel
as
like
hell.
compare Lonely Day to Roulette.
Yeah.
Roulette, the lyrics are extremely straightforward and simple in Roulette, but it's good. It's good.
Yep.
Lonely Day is the same thing. Lonely Day is the same kind of song as Roulette, but Lonely Day is bad and Roulette is good.
I agree.
It's like, if you're trying to make like very emotionally raw, straightforward lyrics, like, it's a fine line between it being like just like compellingly so and just like trite. And unfortunately, they fell on the wrong side of the line on Lonely Day, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think you guys agree.
I do.
At least it wasn't the last track in their discography, though. There's Soldier Side
Soldier
is standing
Side
in the way
is
of that distinction.
Is a great
that's a good song.
way to end the
It's a great
discography,
closer.
man. That's a great.
Well, it's nice that it
great
syncs back
closer.
up with the beginning of Mezmerize too. Like it kind of brings it full circle, which is cool.
I love that Soldier Side intro on Mezmerize too. We didn't even talk about that.
It's a
that's
great lead
way
into
to start the
BYOB.
album.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And they have that high pitched sound, like sort of careening downward. I think it sounds like a bomb falling.
Yeah,
and we
the
hear
madness
that
is coming.
Yeah, you hear that through Soldier Side, the outro tune.
Oh yeah. It's so good. And then brings it full circle with Soldier Side. And like I said, I'm glad that was the last song in the discography if you listen to it chronologically. Because I couldn't imagine if Lonely Day was the last track in the discography. Dodged a bullet with that one, I think.
That would have been bad, yeah. And that was a single, too. I remember watching a video for Lonely Day.
Yep.
I mean, it's a perfect radio song. I mean, it makes sense. But I don't know. I think as a high schooler, I might have listened to it and said, "Well, this is all right. It's catchy." But as I get older, Anyway, the rest of this album's good. I don't want to get hung up on that. The rest of this album is good.
There are great moments. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. It falls off from Mesmerized. It is a tier lower than, but it's not. I mean, it's not that.
No. It's still a great album.
Yeah,
it's still a great album. It's just not on the same level.
Just weighing it against the others
as the others. Yeah,
exactly. I think a lot of bands would be happy to have this record in their discography.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think the real thing about this album, and it's the case with Mezmerize too, as we already talked about, but it's particularly apparent with this that like Darren was basically doing everything and the band wasn't really that engaged. It's pretty obvious. I mean, like Shavo and John do their thing in the rhythm section as they do on all the albums, but Darren is really like he's pretty obviously writing all the songs. Like the one song that Serge had a really heavy, maybe not the one song, but the song where Serge most obviously had a big hand in, which is Vicinity of Obscenity, is like everyone's favorite song on here.
Yep. It's the only one he wrote the lyrics to.
Yeah. And I mean, like, and it's not to knock Darren because like Mezmerize is the same way. Like he was like the main force on most of those songs too. But it's like even more obvious on Hypnotize that the band wasn't really working as a unit. And I think that's kind of why it falls off a little bit. Still a lot of great tracks on it, though. I'm not saying like in the grander scheme of alt metal, this is in the higher tier of it.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, definitely. And then I mean, it's just a great double. I mean, if we count it as a double album, we had that discussion, like a brief talk about that.
Well, they came out within like 6 months of each other, I think, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad that they were released separately. I think that was a good idea.
Yeah.
Because I think they both
Mezmerize released in May, Hypnotize released in November.
I remember buying this the day it came out.
Yep, me too.
Yeah, I'm always conflicted. Like, rate your music when I rate stuff like this. I'm like, I can only do the half intervals. So like, I'd probably give this like a 3.7 or 3.8 out of 5 if I could. You know, that kind of thing. Like, it's not as low as a 3.5, but it's not as high as a 4 out of 5.
If I was like being like, if I was like trying to be really critical, like if I was trying to be like quote unquote objective, I would give it a 3.5. For my own taste, I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, it skews towards 4 out of 5, I think.
That's where I have it too.
It's somewhere in between there for me, I think.
I'd probably give all 4 of the other ones a 5 out of 5.
I have all 4 of the other ones as a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, same.
All
We're
right,
gonna get into rankings.
Let's do it, boys.
This sucks.
No equals. You gotta pick.
No
You gotta pick 5
All right, Jimbo.
in some order.
First.
Jim Barino.
Yeah, you go first since you're convicted there.
Let me make sure I remember. I wrote it down earlier.
I've got mine written down. I can go first if you want.
Go for it.
Okay, 5 Hypnotize, 4 Steel, 3 Totally Nostalgia Mesmerized, 2 Self-Titled, number 1 Toxicity, but 1 and 2 could be flip them if you wanted to.
Mine's
I'll go
close.
Toxicity.
So 5-1, Hypnotize, Steel, Toxicity, Mezmerize, debut.
Say it again.
Okay, well, nice.
Hypnotize, Steel, Toxicity, Mezmerize, self-titled.
Dang.
I totally thought you were going to throw Steel up near the top after you said earlier, like, oh, change
those
some stuff.
Those top, like, 4 through 1 could be in any order, honestly.
Yeah.
Although the debut appeals to me the most, I think, pretty substantially.
Love the debut, man.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah, my ranking is actually just chronological. So 5 Hypnotize, then Mezmerize, then Steal This Album, then Toxicity, then the self-titled. So
it's a good way
chronological is my ranking.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. That's cool. So what if we took the consensus? We'd have the self-titled would be the number 1. I think that'd be like our consensus.
Did everyone pick? Was that your number 1 too?
It was mine.
It was my number 2. It was my number 2.
Oh.
Do we all have Toxicity at 2? If not, no, because you had Mesmerize, James. So that would put Toxicity down
Toxicity
at 2.
is 3.
So
for me.
Our aggregate number 1 would be the self-titled.
Mesmerize over
a
Toxicity is a bold. Mesmerize over Toxicity is a bold ranking.
I wanted to do it, but I was like,
we're splitting
totally
fucking hairs here, man. Like, the nostalgia probably helps probably helps Mesmerize a lot. In that
I want to put Mezmerize at 1 because that's my entry point, man. But I was like, no, I like Toxicity more. I think overall.
Yeah, God damn it! Like I'm reconsidering my ranking now. Honestly, it's that tight.
Yeah, if we recorded this tomorrow, it might be different. Probably would be different.
Yeah.
Except Hypnotize. Hypnotize is solid.
Yeah, I
number
think
5.
that would be a solid number 5 for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
I wonder if that would be the general, like, if most people would agree with that.
So,
If anyone ever watches
Probably.
this, I'd be curious what the response would be. On Rate
We'll
Your
have to ask
Music,
them.
I have no doubt that it is the least, that it's the lowest rated.
yeah, that's what I'm pulling up right now.
I bet Toxicity's ranked number 1 on like all the aggregate stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Toxicity's ranked the highest. So, in order,
Itself.
from 5 to 1 is Steel, Hypnotize, Mezmerize, self-titled Toxicity.
Oh wow, Steal, this album is rated lower aggregate than Hypnotize. That's fucking stupid.
And they have pretty similar ranking numbers of ratings. So
That's fucking
it's
stupid.
about yeah.
Toxicity
I
is
agree.
rated really high. 3.8
Yeah,
with
3.81,
20K ratings. With 20K ratings. That's insanely good rating on there.
Yeah, I think people have this this idea that Steel is not a real, like, it doesn't it's like this weird entry. It's not on par with as like a full LP or something like that, and that's maybe why people aren't. I don't know. That's my hypothesis. It might be wrong. It's probably wrong.
That
but that's
might be
my guess.
true. I think there's some truth
Yeah,
to
I
it.
don't know.
Lonely Day, the single, was rated 2.85, which is which I think is fair.
Maybe generous.
Be generous. I was gonna say the same thing.
It's not a 1 out of 5. It's better than that.
Oh,
it's not
poor-
absolute garbage.
Poor Darren.
Yeah. He's just. Oh yeah, I feel bad for saying that, but so it goes, man. Yeah. Oh well. Also, what do you make of this? Before we sign off here, the members of the band, a lot of them rank, at least 2 of them rank Steel as their favorite album.
Yep.
Does that?
Who?
Well, I know what you'll say, Anthony. Like, I'm guessing, or I'm assuming I know what you'd say here, but like, I was wondering if that has any bearing on like the quality of an album, what the artist says it. Right? I feel like they're coming at it from a different place. Like, they wrote the music, and it's different for the listener. Because some people will say this album's good, and like even the band agrees with that, and I'm like, I mean, insofar as we can talk about this like objectively, if we'll have that conversation one day. But like, I'm just thinking, I'm not sure that if the band says it's their favorite, one, they're I don't know, they're a listener like we are too. They're on the same playing field, and then 2, they just come at it with a vastly different experience, kind of experience that the rest of the listeners can't have necessarily with the music. So I don't know what you guys think about that.
I think it's interesting, but I think it has zero impact.
I kind of lean toward that too.
Yeah, me too.
Just because a artist likes it. I mean, Lars thinks the snare drums and singing sound good, so.
You know the album Treasure by Cocteau Twins?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Which is a really, really great dream pop album.
I love Cocteau
The members of
Twins.
Cocteau Twins think that Treasure is garbage. I was reading that, and it's like
It's wild.
it's probably their second most acclaimed album after Heaven or Las Vegas. So there's plenty of, that's just one example. There are a lot of examples like that in music and literature. Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear how artists talk about their own work, but it's secondary, or maybe not secondary, but it's like almost on a completely different plane than how I would approach the music as the listener.
Yeah, and as I've said before, I also suspect that, I mean, I could be full of shit. I'm probably full of shit, so like if I'm wrong, obviously that's fine. But I suspect that maybe the band likes Steel a lot because it's like, I don't know, people trash it like it's not a real album or something. So it's like attempt to like, I don't know, account for that or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. People have all sorts of reasons why they like things. There's like, insofar as there could be a standard, I have no doubt that people don't have the same. Not all of us have the same standards when evaluating this stuff. It's really hard, and a lot of times I feel like people are talking past each other when we're talking about this stuff.
Like standards of evaluating art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's like internalized all sorts of different folk theories for how to.
One hot take that I will leave this episode with is I would rank Surge's first solo album, Elect the Dead. I would rank that above Hypnotize. I think that that's a better record than Hypnotize.
I haven't heard that
I think
in a long
that's
time.
a really good record.
I saw that live, actually.
Yeah, I'm envious of that. I remember.
Yeah, I went and saw Surge at a 930 Club in D.C.
That wouldn't surprise me. I haven't listened to that in a long time, but that actually wouldn't surprise me.
I
don't
remember
think
that
that's
being really
that far
good.
out of the...
It's really fucking good.
What was that? What was the single from that album that was really popular?
The single was holy shit, am I not
God
going to
damn it!
remember?
I can hear it. I just can't think.
The
of
song I'm thinking is "Lie Lie Lie," which was one of the singles,
Now,
and that's a great
I'm
one.
thinking of the other one.
It's from Elect the Dead, right?
Yeah.
You said?
Fuck
fucking
me.
tired.
What is the
I
name
got
of that
you.
song?
Empty
Is it
Walls.
Empty
Empty
Walls?
Walls.
Empty Walls. That's it.
I remembered it. I remembered it before Jake said it.
Just like a second.
Yeah, we'll have to
Yeah.
rewind that back, see if you actually did, or if you're
Well,
just
No,
the
he
lying
did. He
about
did. He
now.
got it like a fraction. I started saying and then he had it.
The audio's fucked up on all these recordings, so we wouldn't know anyway.
True. Yeah, he'll have it way ahead of
Yeah,
me.
so
then. Yeah.
so there's gonna be like a 10-second pause between when Jake says it and when Anthony says it. He's like, "See, I got it."
Yeah. Welcome to our unlistenable podcast because this platform sucks.
Yeah, thanks
On that
Riverside.
note, have a good night.
Yeah.
Thanks Riverside. Yeah, well, fortunately, no one will be listening to this.